Below the surface of Pearl Harbor lies the overturned hull of a battleship few remember, Utah. Once a symbol of American power, she rests as a silent tomb in shallow, murky water. Stripped of her guns and never meant to fight, she was hit by torpedoes aimed at bigger targets. Those explosions caught dozens of men, a father who kept his daughter's ashes aboard, and untold acts of heroism beneath the rising tide. Why does Utah remain ignored when her loss changed so many lives? What secrets can her wreck finally reveal? Laid down at the New York Navy Yard in March 1909, USS Utah was built as a Florida-class battleship. She stretched 521 feet from bow to stern and displaced 23,000 tons when fully loaded. She entered service on December 31, 1911, armed with 10 12-inch guns mounted in 5 twin turrets, 16 5-inch guns, and a suite of smaller weapons. Her original design allowed speeds up to 20.5 knots, a formidable presence for her era. The ship's fate changed after the London Naval Treaty of 1930, which required the U.S. Navy to retire older capital ships. Utah was selected for a radical transformation. Between 1931 and 1932, she was stripped of her main battery and secondary guns. The turrets remained, but their barrels and machinery were removed, leaving empty shells above deck. Torpedo blisters and heavy armor were taken off. In their place, Utah received radio control equipment and a handful of anti-aircraft guns for training exercises. Her new designation, AG-16, marked her as a target and gunnery training vessel, no longer a weapon of war, but a tool for others to practice on. One distinctive feature set Utah apart. Her decks were covered with thick timber planks, each 6 inches wide, laid down to protect the ship from practice bombs. Those timbers, while practical for training, created an unexpected hazard. During a sudden roll or impact, they could break loose, blocking escape routes and jamming hatches. The conversion also left her with a higher center of gravity and less protection below the waterline, making her more vulnerable to flooding if struck. By late 1941, Utah's silhouette still hinted at her battleship origins, but beneath the surface, she was a hollowed-out shell. She was moored at Ford Island without anti-torpedo nets, her armament reduced to a handful of anti-aircraft guns, and her decks laden with loose timber. The stage was set for a disaster no one had anticipated. USS Utah's career spanned nearly 3 decades, placing her at the heart of some of the most significant moments in early 20th century American naval history. In April 1914, she steamed into the Gulf of Mexico as part of the United States intervention at Veracruz, Mexico. Utah's crew landed more than 1,000 Marines and sailors and helped seize the port city during a tense standoff with Mexican forces. The operation cost 94 American lives, and it established Utah's reputation as a reliable flagship under fire. When the United States entered World War I, Utah shifted to the Atlantic. She spent months escorting convoys across U-boat-infested waters, protecting troop and supply ships bound for Europe. Although she never fired her main guns in anger during the war, her presence deterred German submarines and reassured nervous merchant crews. After the armistice, Utah served as part of the honor escort for President Woodrow Wilson's voyage to the peace talks in France. The interwar years saw Utah in fleet maneuvers, training exercises, and diplomatic missions, including carrying American statesmen to South America. By the late 1930s, her role had changed. After her conversion to a target and training ship, Utah was assigned to the Pacific Fleet in 1940. She arrived at Pearl Harbor to support anti-aircraft gunnery drills and to serve as a live target for dive bombers and torpedo planes. When she moored at Ford Island in late 1941, Utah was no longer a frontline warship, but her presence in Hawaii was the direct result of decades spent adapting to the Navy's evolving needs. That long record of service placed her in the harbor on the morning of December 7, 1941, as the world changed around her. At 7:54 in the morning on December 7, 1941, the first torpedo slammed into USS Utah's port side near frame 84. The shock echoed through the hull, jolting sailors from their bunks and sending a cold rush of water into the ship's engineering spaces. Within seconds, a second torpedo struck close by, compounding the damage. The bridge clock recorded the moment, 8:01 in the morning, just as the ship began to list sharply to port. Below decks, the crew scrambled toward ladders and hatches, only to find their exits blocked by heavy wooden timbers that had broken loose and slid across the deck. Lieutenant Commander Solomon Isquith, the senior officer aboard, rushed to the bridge. He saw the list climbing past 15 degrees, then 30 degrees. Compartment after compartment flooded as the breaches tore open the hull, overwhelming the ship's pumps. Lights flickered and died. The engineering teams radioed that water was rising above the high-pressure turbines and steam pressure was dropping fast. Damage control parties tried to counter flood, but the speed of the list made their efforts useless. By 8:05 in the morning, the ship was listing at over 40 degrees. The order to abandon ship was given. Crew members fought their way to the starboard side, dodging falling debris and shifting timbers as the deck tilted beneath their feet. The escape routes narrowed with every passing minute. Utah's fate was sealed not by a single blow, but by the relentless progression of flooding, a chain reaction that turned a training ship into a death trap in less than 10 minutes. Water poured through the ruptured hull, and the list grew steeper with every heartbeat. Lieutenant Commander Solomon Isquith, standing firm on the tilting deck, issued the order to abandon ship. His voice cut through the chaos, a final command as the angle passed 40 degrees. The starboard side became the only escape, but even that route narrowed by the second. Loose timbers torn free by the roll crashed across the deck, blocking hatches and pinning men against bulkheads. Some sailors clawed at jammed doors, while others scrambled up the slanting deck, dodging debris as the ship's surface pitched beneath their feet. Steam hissed from ruptured pipes and the lights flickered out for good. Above, strafing aircraft raked the deck, sending men diving for cover even as they tried to reach the rails. Isquith and a handful of officers moved quickly, guiding crew toward the few clear passages left. In the engineering spaces, others stayed behind, working in darkness to secure machinery and buy precious seconds for their shipmates. By 8:10, the list exceeded 80 degrees. With a groan of tearing steel, the last mooring line snapped and Utah rolled completely onto her port side. Some men leapt into the oily water, swimming for the safety of Ford Island. Others became trapped below, cut off by flooding and shifting wreckage. Tapping could be heard from inside the overturned hull, a desperate signal from those still alive. In less than 12 minutes, Utah had transformed from a floating barracks to a steel tomb. The attack left 58 men behind as the survivors struggled ashore. The wreck of USS Utah rests on its starboard side, partially submerged off Ford Island. Its orientation is a silent witness to the violence of that morning. Even after decades underwater, the ship's identity is unmistakable. The empty turret wells, once housing massive 12-inch guns, now gape open, clear evidence of the ship's conversion to a target vessel. Along the exposed port side, 2 large breaches are visible where torpedoes tore through the hull, matching the locations recorded in action reports from December 7, 1941. The collapsed casemate lines and scattered debris fields support accounts of rapid flooding and structural failure. Remotely operated vehicle scans confirm these features: empty barbettes, broken superstructure, and the scars of explosive impact. Each physical clue, orientation, breach outlines, and stripped armament aligns with the historical record, leaving no doubt about the ship's fate or the sequence of destruction that capsized her in minutes. Japanese attack orders specifically instructed pilots to avoid wasting torpedoes on Utah, recognizing her as a demilitarized target ship. Yet, in the opening minutes of the assault, 6 Nakajima B-5N bombers from Soryu's Air Group broke formation and released 2 torpedoes into Utah's port side. The most convincing explanation comes from a combination of action reports and post-war pilot interviews. Utah's silhouette, with timber-covered barbettes and a familiar battleship profile, was mistaken for an active warship in the early morning chaos. The ship's mooring at a carrier berth only added to the confusion. No direct Japanese after-action report singles out Utah by name, and surviving records show that attack leaders tried to redirect their squadrons away from her. The evidence strongly supports a recognition error under combat stress, not a deliberate violation of orders. Questions remain about the exact sequence of hits, and whether more than 2 torpedoes were aimed at her. But the best supported answer is that Utah's loss was the result of mistaken identity, an accident of war shaped by confusion, not intent. Today, USS Utah remains a protected war grave, its rusting hull marking both sacrifice and oversight. As new generations visit Pearl Harbor, the silent wreck reminds us that history's lesser-told stories still shape memory, ethics, and remembrance. What we choose to honor now defines the future we inherit. Share your thoughts below.